Okay, and welcome everybody to the CIONET International Web Conference. My name is Hendrik Deckers, and it's a pleasure to welcome all of you. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, in whatever time zone you are very welcome for this web conference. Overcoming obstacles is what we're going to talk about. And so we've got a great guest with us today, Jay Thomas. So Jay, good evening. How are you today?
I'm doing excellent. Thank you so much, and good evening to you as well.
Okay, so thank you for taking the time. It's already in the evening in Bangalore in India where you are. So I know it's private time, so thank you for making that time. Jay, what I wanted to start with in our conversation is that you introduce yourselves a little bit. What I understood is you have more than 23 years experience in our wonderful IT world. You started in media, in telco, and now for more than 10 years you're at DailyHunts. So, but tell us everything we need to know about yourself, your family, where you are, and so on.
Thank you. First and foremost, Hendrik, thanks for having me. I think it's an honor and privilege. I still recall the first time when we met about 3 years back. You and Luke came over to my office. We had a long, lengthy conversation, pretty much anything under the sun, you know. And I'm great to have sharing the stage with you again. It's a pleasure. Just to talk about myself a bit. So I come from the down south coastal area of India, a place called Kerala. Beautiful place. They call it God's own country. It faces the Arabian Sea, and a place full of backwaters, lush green, but pretty much hot and humid throughout the year, except the monsoon time. So I grew up there until my 10th. I finished there. We have 4 siblings. I'm the youngest in the family, 4 boys. Dad was a businessman. Mom was more or less a WWF referee, you know. Her job was to ensure that we fight less and stuff like that. So grew up there mostly, and then I switched to Bangalore. So I've been here in Bangalore for about 16 years, right? From post my 10th grade in Kerala, I went on to pursue my computer science. I also did my higher studies in computer applications and also my certification in telecom BSS, which is the billing support system from US. Spent most of my time with media houses. Started my career with Times of India, which is the largest publication house in India. And then I switched to telco. I spent the entire cycle of working with Airtel. Airtel is the largest telco operator in India. I also spent a lot of time with NSS and BSS companies, and been with the Dailyhunt for about 11 years now, spent about a decade plus. And I currently settled in the so-called Silicon Valley of India, which is Bangalore.
The Silicon Valley of India, wow.
Yeah,
that's a great city, Bangalore, no?
Absolutely. So the place where my office is, in that vicinity of 3 kilometers, you will find at least 80 startups. You know, so yeah, you will see them mushrooming in every nook and corner. So I come from, I think one of the reasons why I moved to Bangalore, my wife belongs to Bangalore. I think that is one of the reasons why I wanted to move back to Bangalore. So been here for about 16 years with the DailyHunt. My responsibility is predominantly to run the entire IT infrastructure, run the entire technology stack for DailyHunt. Along with that, there are a lot of, around security, anything to do with the back-end operations of DailyHunt is my responsibility. So that's what I am.
Okay, great. And we met 2 years ago when we visited you in Bangalore on invitation of CIO Club, which is the largest CIO community in India. And you're an active member in that community as well, right?
Indeed.
So that community brings together, what is it, 1,500 CIOs from all over India?
Yeah, I think it's growing immensely well. So we are about 10 chapters now, including the one opened up in Dubai. There's a lot of collaboration. I think, I don't know how it works back in Europe, but here there is a lot of collaboration over things like WhatsApp. We have an event every other second week for that matter. So every chapter does a lot of events with the partner ecosystem generally. So it could be either an education program which CIs could go through, or it could be partners selling their product and services to the CI community actually. So it's a very vibrant community by and large, and it's immensely growing, I would say.
We're very happy to collaborate and to welcome many of the CIO Club members on the CIO Club members on the CIONET app. So we're very happy to collaborate and bring the global CIO community together in that way.
That's right.
So Jay, let's talk a little bit about your company, because you work for quite a special company. I mean, you've been there for more than 10 years. DailyHunt is one of the biggest news aggregators in the world, especially in India. So so I think for this story, it's important that we all understand exactly what it is that DailyHunt is doing in this big continent, which is called India. Of course, it's not a country; it's a continent, right?
Absolutely, right. If you allow, I could possibly bring up a slide to sort of run through. So we are indeed the largest tech media platform in India. We are in inception almost about 10 years now. So let me take a step back and tell something which Nelson Mandela once said. So Nelson Mandela once said, if we talk to somebody in a language which he can understand, it goes to his head. But if you speak to him in his language, it goes to his heart. So if you speak to him in his language, it goes to his heart. I think that's the premise in which we are sort of built up DailyHunt, right? So 23 different languages, 750 dialects. It's extremely clear with the fact that you can't copy a Western vocabulary, which will not work. And the reason being today, so if you look at the English penetration in India is sub 10%. So out of the 1.3 billion Indians, our penetration is sub 10%. Beat it.
Lower than 10%.
Absolutely, I'm saying.
People that speak English, wow.
And the regional, which is the vernacular penetration, is close to about 80%, right? So today, I mean, we're saying that by 2021, India expected to touch about 735 million smartphone user base. And when that actually happens, we are talking about an English user base of just about 119 million. The rest is going to be the regional language users, right? So you take any stats, whether it's news, the print media, or there is TV channels, if you take the top 20 or a top 10, you will see few English channels or newspapers there. It's dominated by the regional guys. And interestingly, if you look at the India stats, today, 9 out of 10 users who are coming into mainstream internet is a vernacular user or a regional language user.
Vernacular means regional languages, local languages, popular languages, right?
Absolutely. So like I said, there are about 25 official languages we have. And on DailyHunt, we support about 14 different languages. And that 14 covers almost about 75% of the population, right? So that's the thought process of adopting which all languages to bring on board. So that's where we started working, saying that how do we help the next billion Indian to come into mainstream internet and help them consume content of their choice in their language. So we don't want to enforce things saying that, hey, you have to read in English. No, you want to pick a language in whichever your mother tongue belongs to. You could actually consume in that. So that's the whole premise in which we started building the platform. So this is a slightly staggering number, I would say. So we have close to about 300 million people accessing the platform on a monthly basis.
Wow.
And around 65 million people on a daily basis on the platform, right?
65 million people spending time on your platform on a daily basis.
Absolutely. And that's double the size of the population of my state, 65 million, you're talking about. right? And you see something called pin codes. Pin code is nothing but the postal codes.
Yep.
So India has close to about 19,000 plus postal codes. And we get traffic from almost 95% of that. And that very clearly shows how well penetrated we are into the tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 cities of India. It's just not the urban market, but it's actually the rural market as well. And this is interesting, so last year, March, we were about 150 million user base monthly. This year, March, we exited at about 300 million monthly active user base. Now, I think there are multiple reasons behind it. One, the whole personalization story. I'll come to that in the next slide. But I think what also happened is India is the cheapest data market in the world, right? So our cost is, it's I think about $0.2 per GB, which is the cheapest.
Data is almost, it's like for free in India, no? It's almost
it's like free in India actually. And if I get my data correctly, I've seen the Jan data. Our consumption was close to about 4 billion GB of data in the month of Jan 2020. 4 billion GB of data, which is possibly twice the consumption of a US or maybe thrice the consumption of China, I would say actually. So it's just people are consuming it left and right. And this is a sort of a comparison matrix. I put it up. I don't know how relevant Flipboard in the European market. I mean, we looked up Flipboard during our days of inception. They were big, but I think we also captured data from UC News. UC News belongs to Alibaba Group, the last one in the chart, and Google News. Of course, everybody knows about Google News. But I think our ability to sort of reach to the people has been by far the best among all. Right.
So what you do is you are a news aggregator. You aggregate news from many different languages, many different sources, and you bring that together and you provide that to the hundreds of million users on a monthly basis, correct?
Absolutely. And we personalize it. That's the key. We personalize it and give it to the user. So we don't dump every other news to every other user. I'm going to just touch upon that in the slide after this. So this gives a sense of our demographic breakup. So if you look at it, almost about 70% of our user base is between the age of 18 and 35, which is the working class, literally, right? And this data very well resonate with the young India. So we are the youngest country in the world, right? And this data absolutely resonates with that. And I think the beauty is that if you see the tier 1 penetration is about 30%, but what's happening on tier 2 and tier 3 is about 70% of the people. So which means it's just not about the urban users using the app. I think it's people from the rural market is continue to consume content on Dailyhunt. This is the key. This is our secret sauce, I would say. Right? So we've started our personalization journey almost about 3 years back. And I'll tell you, I'm sorry. So what we've done very differently from the other social media apps is that, so typically everybody follows something called a social graph. And social graph defines based on your connected network. So let's say you and I, Hendrik, we are friends. A lot of your recommendation comes based on what I consume, right? So that's how the whole social graph network works. There are times it can go grossly wrong if I change my behavior of consumption, right? Now, I think that's where we started working on building something called a content graph. I think it's first of its kind in the world, where we started defining a graph based on what you consume and not necessarily based on what's your connected network consumed actually, right? And so we build up, so interestingly, before we were doing personalization, my average user spent on the app was about 9 minutes per user per day.
9 minutes per user per day. Okay.
Per day. And now you see it on the slide, it's 30 minutes per user per day is what an average user spend on the app.
So you tripled because you created a better user experience and more personalized. So hyper personalization, every user gets his best possible feed of news.
Absolutely. So if you look at, I think So we've have about 10,000 different ML tags which we defined. We real time go through more than 5 billion clicks, share, like, to sort of understand the user's behavior, what they like, what they don't like, and then we share that, real time we change that and then serve it back to the customer so that he or she gets the content what she's looking for, and this is done in 14 different languages, mind you. I don't know if there are many apps in the world which does up to so many languages. Actually, I think we are probably an exception. I see it as.
Okay. In the meantime, Jay, we're running a small poll for the people that attend this in Zoom, and so the question that we're posting here is: which are the 3 most important media sources that you use to learn for business? So is it TV? Is it online TV? Is it Facebook? Is it LinkedIn? Is it social media? Is it books? Is it online press? Where do you learn from for business? So the poll is running. We'll share the results in a moment. So you're covering 14 different languages. You do translations there as well, or how does that work?
So we do curate content as well. So so one of the things what we ensure is that we don't change the identity of the news, right? So we work with close to about 4,000 different partner ecosystem who actually provides content to me real time. So it could be, it could be coming in the form of RSS feed, or it could be FTP to us and so on and so forth. We present exactly the news which has been covered by the print media. Yeah. But on top of it, we also create and curate content actually, right? So that's how we operate.
And so what are these machine learning tags? Can you explain that a little bit?
So I think every event, so let's say I go click on, say, sports is an event. I go within sports, I go and click on tennis is an event, right? That's another tag. When within tennis, I go and click, let's say, Maria Sharapova, it's another tag, right? So it creates a model. It's build a model which is linear and it is connected. And then exactly I know next time when you come to my app, I know that, okay, you have liking for tennis and you are, possibly a fan of Sharapova, and then start recommending the news articles based on that. Having said, I think something which we are extremely conscious about the fact that we didn't want to sort of do something called, US had this problem called white supremacy, where you create that container where people are limited to what has been recommended to them. So what we do is we do a lot of related stories being published to the user so that they have a 360 view or perspective of what's happening for a particular news. So that you're not containerized to a particular thought or a particular news channel, so to speak, but you get a 360 view of what's related news belong to that particular event. So we do that as well so that we don't sort of create an affinity towards A segment or a B segment for that matter.
Okay. And by the way, the results of the polls are in online press. Your business is the number 1 channel. The number 2 channel is social media. And number 3 and 4 is books. Still very interesting. And we'll get back to that later maybe with CIONET, and then online video, online streaming TV and so on. So on that slide, there was a couple of more things that I found very interesting. Let's talk about the machine learning part of this.
Like I said, I think we started this journey almost about 3 years back with the personalization. We started working with the TensorFlow, the Google TensorFlow.
Okay.
That was the base level platform what we built. But over a period of time, I think we started building a lot more algorithms over Spark. We started writing algorithms over LR and stuff like that. But I think the key was your ability to process. So we take almost about 3 years of data and we run through these algorithms to sort of define something called a user group, right? So we created various user groups, and these user groups are defined based on your consumption pattern, based on your liking, based on your affinity. So we create these groups and then categorize every customer into a certain category, say that, hey, category 1, this is his affinity and this is his liking. And then we serve the content based on what he or she likes. And this process we do more often because I might change my liking from A to B over a period of time. So I need to ensure the fact that I redo this exercise on a frequent basis to ensure the fact that I serve relevant content to the user.
Yeah.
And I think the fact remains the user spend time has gone from a 9 minutes per user per day to a 30 minutes, absolutely reflect on the fact that he or she is getting what she's looking for.
Mm-hmm. And so you're processing 5 billion clicks and likes and shares.
Yes.
On a monthly basis, then, or
that's right. Yeah, correct.
5 billion clicks and likes and shares. That's really amazing, and so.
Yeah, I think you know what So if I look at from my platform standpoint, Henrik. So on an average, I get close to about 20 billion hits to my servers on a daily basis, which is about 20x of India's population. 20 billion don't reflect into number of page views or clicks or any of them because there are algorithms behind to that actually. But that's the kind of traffic we sort of manage on a daily basis.
Okay. Let's talk about the, so we have a good idea. Let's stop the sharing of the slides here. We've got a good idea who you are, and we've got a good idea of who DailyHunt is. Now, I would like to talk a little bit about the Corona crisis and how it has hit India, because I mean, we're all very focused on our local situation and we're getting a bit out of the lockdown here in many European countries. But I was so afraid when Corona was hitting us that in a country like India, with more than 1 billion people living very close together, different standards of living, I thought that would be a massacre over there. So can you tell us what the situation is today and how India has managed Corona in general?
I think I would give the entire credit to the government and to the Prime Minister. I think we did some incredibly amazing job in terms of enabling lockdown well on time. So this is, for some of us, it's the 10th week of lockdown. Barring the essential services, there was nothing available, literally, right? And for you to even go from a city to another city, you need to have relevant passes to even travel down, right? So we're not allowed to move out of our premises. Most of the complex where we live were completely locked down. So they've locked down even the gates so that you can't even go out. Wow. The only thing you could go is you could go out for picking up groceries and stuff like that, right? Otherwise, it's complete lockdown, actually. So, I think what you said is so true. Even I had the similar feeling when the first case was reported in India. That was in my home state in Kerala. A student who returned from Wuhan was diagnosed with COVID. Today, the number of cases reported is just about 100,000. That's peanuts. It's absolute peanuts. Absolutely. For a country of this scale, 100,000 is peanuts, actually. And then, although so in the last about a week, we are sort of easing down on our lockdown. People are allowed to go out. Offices started functioning in a very minimalistic way. And then we are seeing a slight surge in the number of cases reported because I don't think we still have adequate measures to do extensive testing. We're still waiting for the test equipments to come from countries like US and China and so on and so forth. In fact, the death toll is just about 3,000 plus. I think that's quite minimalistic for that matter. So I think the entire India resonated extremely well to the call out from the PM to go for a complete lockdown of industries. There was nothing left, whether it's school, hospitals, everything was completely locked down to a great extent. But I think the impact now started reflecting on the economy very clearly, right? So just about 1/4 of our 2.8 trillion economy is functional right now. So that's extremely worrisome, So in average to the tune of close about $4.5 billion loss per day since lockdown is what is estimated. and our GDP has dropped to close to about sub 2%. I mean, we were trending around 4 to 5, and we have sub 2% actually. Although our ambition was to cross about 7.4, 7.5 next year, but I think it's been hit really, really hard.
Yeah.
I don't know how many of you read the press release by SoftBank today. They've ever reported their first major $1 trillion loss, or yen rather for that matter, and attributed by a lot of Indian companies like Oyo. It's equivalent to Airbnb. Yeah. So the impact of this is that a lot of unicorns are going to sort of die, because if you look at it, anything to do with online booking platforms, the travel, the hospitality, it's completely shut. There is zero traffic on these platforms, right? Yeah. There is massive layoff happening, either the salary cut or massive layoff, which are actually happening. Although government has been trying, so they've allocated certain budget for the world medium segment market. So they've given about 20 billion, close to about $200 billion, which is about 10% of our GDP, to sort of revive the economy. But I think the impact has been fairly bad. Almost about 27% unemployment is what we see right now.
27.
27% of unemployment in. So it was about 24 in the month of March. April, it shot up to about 29% actually. We spoke about the print. The media as such, especially the print media, is going through serious crisis. Yeah. I think their estimated loss in the last 2 months is close to about 4,500 crores of dollars actually. So that's a huge amount of loss. Yeah, close to about $600 million is the loss what they've predicted. And they're expecting it to touch close to about $1.6 billion in the next 7 to 8 months.
So to summarize what you're saying, the health impact, that toll that we had to pay in India for Corona was very well managed, because you went into lockdown very, very early. So you got it completely under control, or mostly under control, which is, absolutely, I think, really amazing for a country like India. But then the economic impact of being 10 weeks in lockdown are enormous, and so on all levels of society, I can imagine, because you have many people living below poverty line and so on. So the impact on that must be immense, and so the programs that your government is putting in place are very, very needed. Let's talk about, you talked about the impact on the print media business. So what was your model is completely different than the traditional print media. So what was the impact of the crisis on DailyHunt? Did you suffer? What was the result of this?
So I just talk about India at large. So I think the consumption on online has gone haywire. I think it's been a massive consumption of content, especially video. So we saw overall in India, I think the consumption gone up almost about 70% growth in video consumption, what we've seen. I think we've reached a stage in life where the ISPs, the telcos, were getting choked on the bandwidth front. The biggies like the YouTubes, the Netflix, the Facebook of the world literally downgraded their bit rate so as to ensure the fact that we are able to play the videos and stuff like the user actually. And interestingly, the consumption on smartphone, if you look at it, has gone up close to about 18% on the urban market. But the rural market is even higher. I think it's close to what 22, 23% is the growth we're seeing it in rural market for that matter. So though the online consumption has gone amazingly well, I think the pivoting with video to begin with, and followed with the news. I think news has been, so everybody's pretty much locked down at home. You have nothing much to do in life except to latch on to application like Dailyhunt and stuff like that to consume, because the print has literally stopped, right? I think with the lockdown happening, the publishing houses had to, lock down the entire setup. They've come back in small cases. Just to give an example, an average newspaper, the number of pages pro-COVID back in Bangalore was close to about 20 to 21 pages. What I get now at home is maybe 4 to 5 pages. So which means there are no advertisement publishing happening on the newspapers. People have gone completely off guard in terms of doing published. I mean, so the reason being, I think everybody is in a mode to reserve cash as much as they can, so as to ensure that they, sail through this phase in life and do investments where there are visible, clear, tangible results. They would come back to me saying that, hey, I'm willing to do a campaign on your platform, but I need a definite ROI from the campaign. So that's what we are actually seeing it. I'll just show a quick slide in terms of what it meant to DailyHunt.
I can already tell the audience that it's not that well known with the vocabulary of India, that you're going to talk about Bharat. And Bharat is in fact the name for India, not the name for India, right?
That's right. That's right. Good that you brought up that point, actually. So Bharat is a Sanskrit. Sanskrit is a language that's one of the most ancient languages in India, and it's derived from Bharat, derived from the Sanskrit language. Actually, I forgot what does that mean. I think it's all about bringing light and stuff like that. I don't recall exactly, but then this is what we saw in the month of March. I think is in a similar growth. So we saw almost about 38% uptake on our user spend on the platform. So we saw sudden surge in users coming back to the platform, right? The average spend time, like I spoke a while back, we were trending around 27 minutes per user per day. Now we trend more than 30 minutes per user per day on the platform, right? So this is on the business side of the story. I mean, this has been an exponential growth, what we saw. And on the platform, it's been extremely overwhelming to see the traffic which was coming in. So on my public cache, my last month bandwidth consumption was 25 petabytes.
Wow. 25
petabytes was my consumption on my public cache. So that's the sort of traffic what we saw. We saw a growth pretty much everywhere. The traffic was in the likes of about 90% plus traffic which was coming onto my infrastructure.
So you basically doubled the traffic on all your systems and CDNs and servers and so on.
That's right, absolutely.
Okay. So so how did you just survive that then? I mean, and did you survive? How long did you go down? I mean, what was your downtown?
If you don't quote me, I'm going to speak about that. What's sort of overwhelming for me is that during this phase of cycle, the most of the biggies went down, and you name it, who are in the large social media space, they were not able to handle the traffic. We never had a single outage. And I'm extremely proud about the fact that we sustained it so beautifully. And we'll talk about that in the coming slides, how we sort of managed it actually. But then we had not even a single outage during this 2 months. And double the traffic we handled with absolute ease.
Okay. And so what you're saying, some of the big guys, the Facebooks and the Googles, they went down in the crisis without mentioning any names?
I'll leave it to your imagination, but it was in the news all over the place. I think some of them still struggling. I think 2 days back also there was an outage with one of the biggies. But yeah, you said it, Hendrik.
Okay. So it's interesting then for us to know, well, how your cloud is built. And so can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. So, so if you look at it, the way our IT is structured, so there is a corporate IT, which manages the office IT network and stuff like that. And there is production IT. Yeah. I think from inception, we were very clear on the fact that we wanted to have less dependency on our office space. So we wanted to host everything centrally so that it doesn't matter where do you sit. You're in office, you're at home, you're traveling, and where you should be able to work seamlessly. That was so from the inception, I'm a part of the team. So that was the design concept we had from day one, saying that we want to have everything central, so that dependency is less on the office space actually.
So your company was born in the cloud.
Absolutely. Yes. Absolutely, we are born in the cloud organization. So we, of course, for a startup, when we're a startup over 10 years back, and we still continue to work like a startup, your time to test waters is very critical, right? And you don't have that scale of operations to manage your DevOps or operations and stuff like that. So you obviously, or naturally, you go to a cloud infrastructure. But I think we had our early realization in life that for our kind of workload, a pure play public cloud may not be the optimal solution, actually.
Okay.
So we were seeing an exponential growth in our traffic. So just to name it out, so my average read-write on my infrastructure is almost 50-50. Industry is typically about 80-20, 70-30, more of read than write. But for us, because we do a lot of personalization, a content get ingested and re-ingested and so on and so forth. So our read-write ratio is extremely high. It's almost about 50-50.
Wow.
My average block size is about 128K, whereas in the market you see about 4K to 8K is what you normally see. And so these were some of these. And then, of course, we wanted to build up an infrastructure where response time is extremely sensitive, right? We wanted to have sub-millisecond response time. I think when we put this, okay, so I'm not saying the fact that a public cloud can't do it. They could possibly do it, but then you pay a premium for that, right? Is when we decided the fact that, okay, let's look at building our own infrastructure, right? So we started building our own private clouds, and then we run it across, pretty much everyone. We have a VMware based. We run Kubernetes with containers. We have OpenStack with the KVM hypervisor, which we run. And what we've done is we built a hybrid network. So we've connected to a multi-public cloud. So we talk to most of the biggies on the public world so that you can easily scale out when there is a surge in traffic. Okay. So that's how we've designed and built our entire infrastructure.
Do I understand? I understood that about 90% of your traffic is on your private cloud, and that 10% you go to Amazon, Azure, the Googles, and so on?
That's right. Absolutely, actually, yes. So what we've done is anything which is slightly loosely lying, I wouldn't say loosely lying, anything which is on the serving side of the world, like your web servers and stuff like that, we went and put it up on the public cloud. So that's where you need elasticity. That's where you need to sort of grow. But anything which is to do with the data store, anything to do with the database and stuff like that, we kept it on our private cloud so that it is extremely sensitive to I/O, the response time, and so on and so forth.
Okay. Very interesting. So that's interesting. I mean, you were born in the cloud, but still 90% is in your private cloud, and public cloud is only like 10%. And then Google plays an important part in the analytics. Is that one of the?
That's right. Yeah. So I would say this, Hendrik. I think this strategy of being pure play public or private or hybrid purely depends upon your workload. So I'm not saying that every company has to follow this strategy. Yep. My use case was very, very different. Like I said, my block size were big, my response time were like, we are very sensitive to network, because after all, I'm serving news content. If there is a delay in serving the news, it's become a stale news, right? So it's very, very centric to network. So for our use case, hybrid was much, much, much more relevant. Yes, we do use Google Cloud, not only for the analytics, we use the GA extensively from the Google Analytics for our entire analytics space. But we also use the Vision API for identifying images and tagging them and creating the metadata and so on and so forth. And we also use the Video Intelligence API, so again, for identifying the properties of the videos and stuff like that. So we do quite a bit of work with Google. Of course, we started our whole personalization journey on TensorFlow.
Okay. So maybe, Luc, if you could join us here. Luc Hendriks, who's the CEO of CIONET, has been monitoring the chat and the questions that are coming in. So, Luc, what is it that people want to know?
So, hello, Jay. There's a couple of people wondering what you're doing in the fight against fake news. There's a lot of talk about fake news, and so I can imagine that you being an aggregator of news, you could do some curation and some verification. So what are you doing in that space?
I think that's a brilliant question. I think This is something which we also been fighting it out, right? I think we especially, I want to talk about this time of COVID. We've been working very closely with the partner ecosystems to sort of bust this industry of fake news, especially which is, so mostly this fake news is targeted. It is user-generated content. We call it UGC, which you see it in the social media spaces actually, right? One of the things we consciously do is we work with brands. So you name the brand. So we don't really, so based on the news segment. So let's say if you're talking about a political news, we only take political news from certain brands. We don't take it from a UGC content, or we don't take it from, we call it a PGC, which is a professionally generated content. So we have about 30,000 people in our ecosystem who generate content and give it to me, right? May not be completely authenticated, but then what we do is we have a solid moderation editorial team who runs through this news content, validate and ensure the fact that the news article coming from the PGC is, well qualified enough to get published. But look, the key thing is to ensure the fact that you work with the right set of partner ecosystem. What we have also done a complete machine learning there is that in the news article, you have a choice to go like, dislike, you can share your comment. You could do a lot of activities around a news article, right? We keep that. So I spoke about that 5 billion clicks, like, share. We sort of real time look at it. And the moment we see the fact that a certain news article is getting more dislikes or more comments, which is negative in nature, we immediately take them off the news article. And if you see that consistently happening, we take either the category of that publisher or even the publisher themselves. We do that. So that way, there is a completely mission-driven activity which happens in the backend to ensure the fact that we sort of don't serve fake news to the end user. But like you said, thanks for bringing it up. That's something in this period of time, we thought this is the best time because people have latched on to online media platform than anything else. And we've been working very closely with the community at large to see to the fact that how do we sort of eradicate the space of fake news.
And what are the main security concerns? And did you see the vulnerabilities and the threats evolve in the past couple of months under the COVID crisis?
Absolutely, you said it. There is not a day when I don't have an attack. DDoS has become a new norm for us, literally. So, any platform which attracts traffic definitely undergo a lot of attack. But we've sort of built up a decent perimeter level security with our partner ecosystem. So we work with the likes of Google, Akamai's and stuff like that. So we've built a fairly decent perimeter level security to ensure the fact that we are not that vulnerable. But I think it's a learning curve which we're going through. I think a lot more to be done because in the month of March, I think close to about 62% uptake on cyber attacks we witnessed back in India. I think world at large, but India alone, I think the increase in cyber attacks was close to about 62% actually. So we're quite conscious about the fact that we are definitely, there are people would be. So just to add to that, so what we have also done is we've written this honeycomb traps, right? So these are, we call it honeypot. So these are hidden script within the app. So for an end user, these articles will not be visible, but if it's a traffic coming from the system, they don't know whether it's a hidden URL or not. We trigger or we get to know if there are malicious traffic coming that way into your platform because they end up clicking on those hidden URLs. But that comes in lakhs, literally comes in lakhs. But then we handle it dynamically to ensure the fact that they are either blocked or taken off from the system actually. So yeah, it's a continual process, I would say. I don't think there is a very clear, definite answer saying that are we completely good? No, I don't think we are completely good, but are we in the right path? Yes, I think we are on the right path.
And so the primary objective of the attackers is to try to bring you down. It's not to try to use you to attack somebody else.
So there's twofold actually. One could be, right, you rightly said, to bring us down. So quote unquote, the competition interest would be to obviously bring us down. So that's one side of the interest for the competition. But at the same time, there are people who come and crawl content. Where do you get so many content under one roof, right? So we ingest close to about close to about 100,000 to 200,000 news articles in a day.
Oh,
getting so many insertion in one platform, you have limited platforms where you get it. So there are people who actually come to crawl the content, not necessarily to bring us down, crawl it and put it up in their app or website and so on and so forth. So there are two sets of people so it's like a chicken and egg situation. So if you ask a business guy, do you have a concern somebody coming and crawling the content? He said, why would I have a problem? Because that's giving me additional traffic into the platform. But for an infra guy, it's eating up my resources and bandwidth and compute and so on and so forth. So like it's always a push and pull with the business.
Yeah. So let's go back to the title of the conference today was Overcoming Obstacles. So if you look at your business obstacles, I mean, you're blessed that you were born digital. Your company was born digital, and in fact, instead of business or at least traffic not going down, traffic is up. So your obstacles was to overcome the more traffic. Was one of the obstacles. I can imagine also that, like in every company, you needed to have your people work from home was a big obstacle as well. So
I think thanks for bringing up that topic, Hendrik. I think we started working on overcoming the obstacles slightly before the government declared the lockdown. So what had happened was, so we are an ISO certified, 27K certified company. And so the BCP DR is not really new to us. So we do this tabletop testing and stuff like that very often. But what we have not ever done is close down of all our offices and see to the fact that how users are able to connect from home. So almost about a week before the government declared the lockdown, we started working on the plan of action, right? So we came up with a 9-slider plan of action in terms of listing down all the critical systems, moving some of the internal system to cloud so that we put less traffic on the VPN systems, issuing laptops to every other employee who don't have one. In fact, we stacked up laptop with the security, and we tied up with the delivery company so as to ensure the fact that if one of the employees' laptop is not working, this delivery company will get it delivered to them at their home. So we've done all those exercises and declared BCP. In the midst of the BCP, the government also declared the lockdown. I think having more than 1,000 devices connected concurrently on the VPN was something which we were not really exposed to. I think we had a bit of a glitches on the first 2 days, and then it's been a sort of a cakewalk. So let me say this, Hendrik and Luke, my collaboration. So we work like a startup. Although we are about a decade old, we still love to work like a startup. The daily huddles, the sprint meetings, the war rooms are very common at work, right? We didn't cancel a single of them. We've maintained the calendar as is. The only thing what we did was we switched everything to a video conferencing platform, right? The advantage being, since you are at home, you have, so earlier people have excuses of on the road, you're not in office on time, missing the meetings and stuff like that. We started bang at 10 in the morning. We saw an uptake of almost about 480% growth in our collaboration tools in the first 3 weeks itself. Yeah. It was insanely grown high. I think what was really overwhelming for me was that the uptake on my issue resolution. So the time taken to resolve my problem has almost come down by 82% in the first 4 weeks. Could be the factor that you are less interrupted now. You're at home. I mean, back at work, you get pulled in, pulled out of the meetings and stuff like that. I think it really worked beautifully for us, actually. I think there's a bit of an issue with the work-life balance and stuff like that, what we call it. And I think over the last 8 weeks, 9 weeks, I realized there's nothing called work-life balance. I think you need to find a rhythm in your life, right? So you need to sort of balance out. So for me, the first week was whether it's work from home, working from home, and working for home. So when you have 2 boys at home, you can't be locked down completely and doing office work. So you have to dedicate time for them. So work from home, working from home, working from home, you sort of try to get a rhythm out of the entire thing, I think life becomes pretty easy. But I think as a team, what really excited us was the numbers we saw by the end of April or end of March, where the traffic doubled up, the user almost grew about 30%. I mean, that really showed the effort and the time we put in to ensure those systems work 24/7 without any interruption. But I think the gratification came from the business numbers. Absolutely.
Okay. And so we're running in the meantime a small poll on what was the #1 technology that companies can that will mostly help companies to overcome the business obstacles that they have. So I'm gonna end the poll here and quickly share the results. And we see that cloud computing is the #1 technology basically that can help companies overcome this. But also artificial intelligence, machine learning are becoming more and more important as technologies to because there's business opportunities as well, right? I mean, how do you in DailyHunt, how do you look at the opportunities that this crisis brings? How do you see the future for your company?
I think it's a massive opportunity for us. I think opportunity in the sense of bringing a lot of new customers into the platform. Like I said a while back, with the traditional print and other stuff, which is still lagged behind in terms of back in business, a lot more users are moving into the online platform. But I think the key become for us is to, while we acquire the customer, I think it's very important that we need to understand what the customer is looking for. I think that's where the whole personalization story comes into picture. I think it's all about serving the right content to the user at the first time. Every time becomes very key. I think, like I said a while back, I think the great opportunity for us is also to sort of to bust the fake news, which is sort of is a hindrance for a lot of publishing houses. I think that's one area we're going to work very closely to ensure the fact that we make use of this time to get that eradicated completely.
Okay. We have a couple of details questions. Kalman from TVH wanted to know if you're using TensorFlow for ML. And he has asked, are you also considering PyTorch?
So we were using TensorFlow, but I think we're kind of using it minimalistically at this point in time. We started writing a lot more scripts on Spark and LR. But yeah, we do use TensorFlow, but not to that extent, like how we use it.
PyTorch, is that a technology that you use?
Yeah, I think it's in the radar, but not really endorsed at this point in time.
Okay. Well, maybe you and Kalman should get in touch and discuss technologies here. Yep. So, Jay, we're coming to the end of this 1 hour conference. We've got a video interview, a private video interview planned in the coming weeks, because there's still many things that we want to discuss, but we have already taken up the time, and especially because you have a very strong personal story on overcoming obstacles as well. Maybe you want to say something about that in a minute, so that people are going to be interested to follow when the video comes out.
I think there are many stories which I can actually talk about, but then since you asked that question, yeah, I think I'll tell you one personal story. This was way back when I was working for Airtel, the largest telco in India. I saw my life very nearby. I think I ran through some serious health issues actually, which was very bothering for the family at large. I still recall my parents wanted me to quit the job and get back home. I walked up to my then CIO and said that, I want to quit. He said, he spoke to me for about 10 minutes, and at the end of it, he said, you meant to be an eagle, right? I quite didn't catch at that point in time, except I knew for the fact that eagle could, fly high, it could hunt in the night. But I think it was motivating enough that I decided to stay back and work. But it took me a few years to realize two other key aspects of eagle. One is eagle makes love in the air. I never knew that it make love in the air, actually. It's definitely a tough fact after all. Don't even try it at home. But the second aspect was when there is a storm, when all the birds go helter-skelter, right? They all go to their nest and find comfort. eagle is the only bird which uses the storm to fly high, right? I think when I realized the fact that what he was trying to convey to me is that, Jay, don't surrender to your problem. Use this problem and convert that into an opportunity and fly high in life. I guess there was no looking back since then. It's very personal. I think that whole journey has been not very, very overwhelming, but I think that was one of my first learning in life, saying that how do we sort of convert your obstacles to opportunity and move on in life. And I sort of imply that in everything I do.
And I promise to everybody, we'll come back to your personal story on how you have overcome your personal obstacles. So, and with that, we're coming to the end of this web conference. I'd like to thank you, Jay, for your time and for your strong story. So, thank you for being with us.
Thank you, Hendrik. Thank you, Luke, and thank you everyone who's tuned in, joined from all over the world. I really appreciate you listening to me out. If I made sense, let me know. If I didn't make sense, also let me know. But then happy to connect with a lot of you. My LinkedIn details are there. Please add and we can have conversations.
Okay, I'm going to share a couple of last slides for all of us. So the CIONET, we're running web conferences on a regular basis. We started mid-February, and that did one in March and a couple in April. And now in May, we're doing this one. The next one that's coming up is CIO Next. That is on the 26th of June, which is a virtual conference where we have all the finalists from the finance and the public sector who are finalists for the European Digital Leader of the Year Award. So that is something that you absolutely don't want to miss. So make sure that you go to cionext.com and that you register for that conference. If you're not a CIONET member yet and you're following this on our LinkedIn stream and you are a digital leader, please join us and go to our website where you can apply to join as a member. If you're interested in learning more about different digital leaders around the world and want to get some great content, some leadership deep dive interviews that we've done, please go to CIONET.tv and of course follow us on LinkedIn as well. So with that, I would like to thank again all of you for attending, for having a good time, for the good discussions, and see you soon on one of the next CIONET events. Bye for now.
For the last 15 years, I've been on a quest to discover the DNA of the most successful digital leaders in the world. What makes them tick, what's in their minds and in their hearts. We are sharing deep insights from our world-class CIOs so that you get inspired, can learn and reach your full potential as a digital leader. If you are an ambitious technology executive, then I invite you to join CIONET. Join our community so that you too can realize your ambition.